Started. So
Okay.
hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Lindsay Humphreys, and I'm the Program Director for Junior Achievement of New Mexico. Welcome to our Inspiring NM Student Conference, and thank you to the New Mexico Society of CPAs for making this amazing conference possible. During this conference, we've designed this conference to provide New Mexico students with the opportunity to hear business professionals in various careers in finance. During these remaining 2 weeks of the conference, we will be featuring speakers on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock and Thursday mornings at 10:30. During these events, you will hear speakers share details about their education, their job, and their career journey, as well as learn some very valuable skills and concepts for your own future economic success. But before we get started, a few virtual meeting etiquette reminders. As you all are aware, this video will be recorded and uploaded onto our YouTube channel, so please feel free to share that link when it comes to you in the follow-up email. At this time, any educators or parents or students on the call, if you could please type your first and last name into the chat box, that helps us keep track of attendance in today's session. Please remember that during the speaker's presentation, all of our mics should be muted, and if you have questions during the presentation, you can jot them into the chat box, or you can use the raise your hand feature during the Q&A portion of the event. Today, we are so excited to welcome Sunny Shields, insurance agent for State Farm, and we are honored and thrilled to have her share her story with all of us today. So Sunny, I'll share my screen and the floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you again for Junior Achievement of New Mexico for letting me speak. I just want to start off with some basics about me. I graduated from New Mexico State with no clue what I wanted to do. My parents told me that I could not move home, so I needed to find a job. My degree, I have a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, so my plan was to be a vet, but I quickly found out that I'm horrible at math and science. There was no time to change my major because I had two younger siblings, so I decided that I wanted to move to Phoenix. So New Mexico State is an awesome university and they have career fairs, and I happened to fall upon State Farm. And State Farm at that time, our main office for the states of New Mexico, Nevada, and Arizona was in Phoenix. So I applied to be a State Farm claim rep, and I moved to Phoenix in February of 1999. So that is how I started with State Farm. I have been with State Farm for a total of 22 years. 15 of that, I have had my own agency here in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. The years before that, though, I was a claim rep. And I was a claim rep for auto claims. So I spent my first 6 weeks actually, in training. They train you on the auto policy. So I had to learn how to read this little book that is not in English. It's in insurance lingo. And so you have 6 weeks to learn the lingo, 6 weeks to kind of put your fingers in claims, but not really know. And then at that time, I don't think they do this anymore. They flew you to Bloomington, Illinois, where our headquarters for State Farm, the big State Farm, is. No stress, but you had 2 weeks, and if you didn't pass the class, they sent you home and you lost your job. So a little stressful for me. I am a horrible test taker, and my parents had moved me out to Phoenix. I had an apartment, and so here's the stress of that. So in typical Sunny fashion, it's the last day of the class, and I have to get a certain grade to stay. And it was scary because you'd be in the middle of class and they'd have these escorts come in, tap the person on the shoulder, take you out of the class, and then you'd go pack your stuff and they'd fly you home. So again, no stress. But I ended up passing. On the last day, I got it by, I think, 3 extra points. So I got to keep my job, which is exciting for everyone, but especially my parents. So that is how my journey with State Farm started. As a claim rep, I got to quickly see the importance of auto insurance. I also got to see what dumb things I did as a teenager and how I could have potentially, basically, for lack of a better word, screwed my parents because of what can happen when you're in an auto accident. It is your fault, and how things can quickly escalate. And my parents, everything they've worked for could have been quickly taken away because I was being a teenager and not really thinking through what I was doing. So that's a little bit about me. What I'd like to talk to you today. Oh, yes. So here's a picture. I'm not going to point myself out because my office made fun of me. But this was Claim School in 1999. There are 4 people in there that are still working with State Farm that were in my group. This was the picture they took before some got escorted out. The next slide is my office and a current picture of me, which is a little bit better than the picture from 1999. But the next slide is the slide about the basics we should know about auto insurance. There's a lot of insurance you should learn about, but as a teenager or a young adult, these are some of the basics so that when you do have to get auto insurance, you know what questions to ask and what to be looking for so you're not taken advantage of. Can we do the next slide, please? Okay, so state law. So every state requires that you have at least liability insurance. We do have a lot of people in the state of New Mexico who choose not to carry insurance. New Mexico is actually one of the top 3 states for drivers who don't carry insurance. There's major cons with that. Number 1, you're breaking the law. Number 2, if you hit somebody and you don't have insurance, that person's insurance company is going to come after you. They will make you pay them back, even if it takes 20 years at $5 a week. So that's a way to start your adult life or your young life with a big mess. Auto insurance, honestly, it's not that expensive. People think it is, and when you're younger, it is a little more, but there are amazing discounts that each company has. Number 1, you can get a discount for no tickets or accidents. Number 2, you can get a discount for having a 3.0 or better and being a full-time student. So there are ways to keep that cost minimal. Even if you can only afford liability, at least you have it and you're protecting yourself or your parents, because if you're still a dependent of your parents, again, the person you hit or the insurance company can still go after them, and possibly they have to pay all of their savings. The other reason insurance is important is because you've worked hard for this car, whether it was a gift or whether you saved up money and got it, you worked hard for this car. So by having insurance, specifically collision insurance, if you wreck your car, the insurance company is going to help you fix it or replace it minus your deductible. And financially, that's very beneficial. The other reason insurance is very important is if you happen to have that super bad accident. So I can think of instances where I was driving and I shouldn't, or I was speeding, or I was being reckless. I blessed my parents with a bunch of accidents the first 6 months I had my license. So I hit the pole protecting the gas pump. I reversed out of our driveway, mad at my dad, and hit an insurance agent's car, and then fled the scene. And then called my dad and said, basically told him, because I thought my dad would get out with his measuring tape and would know exactly the distance and would know it was me. I drove through the garage door And there's one more that I can't think of, but I did a lot in the very beginning. So my parents were grateful for the insurance. But I did some dumb things. We couldn't text back then, but speeding and being reckless and just doing things that, had I caused an accident, I would have been considered negligent and they would have gone, after my parents' insurance. But let's say my parents just carry the very minimum that the state requires, which is 25,000 per person and 50,000 per accident. But I injured several people. So after that 50,000 that the insurance company has, if they exceed that, my parents then would have had to pay for the difference. It's a little complicated. I don't want to get in the weeds, but I just want to explain what I wish I would have known, that you can really mess up your parents' financial situation by having one of these really bad, dumb accidents. As a claim rep, I saw really bad accidents where people were fighting and one person drove over the other person. That claim lasted for years, and that was a financial drain on the families, emotional drain on the families. The individual that was run over, things in his body shifted, and so his life was very different. So that was just a fight. Two people were upset with each other, fighting. One drove off, the guy was in the window and he fell off. So it's just things that you don't really think about the aftermath. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, because again, I had no clue and I apologize to my parents often. Let's see. The next thing, I talked about your car. What is the next slide? Okay. How to go about getting insurance. You can call any insurance company. Of course, I put my company in there, so if you wanted to call me, you can. You need to let them know that you need to get insurance and that it's your first time. Most companies will take the time to explain the basics to you. They should take the time to answer any questions you have. They should be explaining the discounts that they offer. And if you're talking to them and they're annoyed that you're asking questions or they're not offering any discounts, maybe that's not a fit. Maybe that's not the insurance company for you. But most of us understand insurance only because of the job we have. So we are very understanding that it's your first time and you have a bunch of questions. So whoever you talk to, whether it's online or on the phone, you should have somebody that takes the time to explain it to you, because it's important. And if you don't understand what you have or you don't have, you're going to be upset if you're in an accident and you need that coverage and you don't have it. Let's see. Deposits, a lot of companies will ask you for a deposit. A lot of companies won't. You, like State Farm, for example, you pay the first month. You don't have to pay a deposit. So if financially you're not in a place to pay for the first month and a deposit, all you need to do is call a different company, because most companies don't require a deposit anymore. The reputation of the company is important. In insurance, you get what you pay for. So if you are going with a company that is a fly-by-night company and they have no reputation, or you can't find any information on them, you'll get what you pay for. And we've had plenty of customers who paid every month for years, and when they had an accident, the company said, "Oh, you haven't been paying. You have no coverage." And it's because it was some small company that really was taking advantage of people, not taking care of people like you should as an insurance company. So I think that's most of my stuff. I went through it really fast. I'm sorry. I talk when I'm nervous. But I don't know, Lindsay, if there's specific questions you have or topics you want me to go over more.
Thank you so much, Sunny, and that was fantastic. That was super informative. But we do have some follow-up questions. So I do want to just talk a little bit more about liability insurance. And so could you approximately what is the basic cost of that on average for a young person, like 16 years old? What would that cost if their parents weren't able to cover it and they needed it for themselves?
So it depends. I'll be honest, as a younger driver, your rates are going to be more expensive because you're a new driver and you're going to have more accidents possibly than somebody who's a seasoned driver. And then with insurance anymore, there used to be the thought of like 4 rates. There was a rate until you were 25, and then a rate from 25 to 50, 50 to 70, and 70 and over. So most companies, I'm assuming, but State Farm has gotten away with that, and we do more of, okay, so a 16, 17, and 18-year-old, we're going to rate them based off of their age versus a 50-year-old because it's just different. You drive different. Your behaviors are different. Your risk taking is different. And as far as an actual price, I don't have a range to say, okay, it's going to be between $20 and $50. I would have to actually do a quote because it's like a mixing bowl. There's a whole bunch of factors that go into it. Where you live, the year, make, and model of your car, your driving history. Credit is a factor that is considered in the quote. It's not the main one. Also, your grades, because like I talked about, that's a discount. So all of these things go into a mixing pot, and then the computer will spit out a number. Liability insurance, though, because I don't think I was very clear, this is the coverage that protects you if you cause an accident. The state of New Mexico requires the minimum, which is $25,000 per person, $50,000 per accident, and $10,000 for property damage. What that means is if there's 3 people in the car, I cannot pay more than $25,000 to each of them if they're hurt, but a total of $50,000 for the whole accident. The last number is the property damage. So I do not write $10,000 in my office. I require that my employees do at least $25,000. Because if I were to take you, the customer, outside my front door and said, okay, pick 2 cars that you hit that if totaled are less than $10,000 in value, or if we need to repair the entire rear end, would be less than $10,000. And honestly, that $10,000 goes very fast. And again, if your limits don't cover it and your insurance company isn't good at negotiating and working with the other companies, it could come out of your pocket.
Excellent, thank you. Could you touch a little bit more on if there are rates that are higher for boys or men, and if so, why?
Yes, so the rates typically for men and boys are higher, and that is because men and boys are a little riskier when driving than females. So it's more obvious when they're young, from 17 to 25. It's not as bad as it used to be since we've gotten more specific age groups that we're rating instead of one big age group. But yes, in auto insurance and life insurance, the cost for men and boys is more. And that's just because they are not as cautious as the females.
Thank you. So you did mention that in order to get that quote and you put it into the mixing bowl that you have, you take credit and grades and all of that. And so with that being said, do you have to have a parent in order to get insurance, or could you go on your own and you're 16 and your parents don't have the ability to back you necessarily?
No, you can be any age. I mean, obviously 16 because of the license. So you don't have to have your parents. You can go and get it yourself. It's obviously a little less with your parents if your parents are already with us and you bundle, meaning you have your home and other cars with us, you get more discounts for the more items you have with a company. But if you're a 16-year-old and you have good grades and no tickets or accidents, you're still going to get a decent rate by yourself because you have the good grades, the 3.0 or better, and the no tickets or accidents. Those two discounts save quite a bit for the younger drivers.
Excellent. Thank you. A question about like a personal question. So what is the best advice you've ever received?
So the best advice I've ever received is don't give up because life isn't easy. I have this thought process that we all have a plan and we're going to graduate from high school and we all know what we're going to do and we're going to get married and have kids and buy a house and do all of this stuff in a certain timeline really doesn't work out for everyone. And so for me, it was just don't give up. Life isn't hard. And my path is very different from anyone else's path, that there is no set path we're all supposed to follow.
Thank you. Was there ever a time when you were in your young professional career and that you messed up at work or you failed? And how did you recover from that?
Yes. Yes, there's quite a few. There's several as a claim rep and there's several as an agent. As an agent, my first day, I had a household that it was a lady that worked for my father and she wanted to get insurance. So we wrote her insurance, gave her the rates. I was so excited. It was a house and I think 3 cars. And I forgot to run a report on the house side. So there are requirements when you bring your house about having no claims in a certain time frame. I didn't run that report, and she had 2 claims in the time frame. So not only was the house ineligible, but the price of the cars went up because we didn't have the discount. So I had to call and say, I'm so sorry. I did this incorrectly. I didn't run this report. Your house isn't actually eligible. And she'd already canceled her insurance with the other company. So she was annoyed and then had to go back to the other company. So yes, I did that. And then in claims, people are very upset when they've had an accident. And I many times in the beginning said the wrong thing, wasn't sympathetic, and told them something wrong about the policy. So I had to admit my mistake and apologize. This job it's hard to know everything and remember everything, and so it's easy to say something wrong. Or give the wrong information. And especially when you have an office and have employees, it's easy for them to do it too. So I've learned to just admit our mistakes and apologize right away instead of denying them.
That's great advice. Thank you. Follow-up question to what you were just talking about is, with that being said, what is the easiest and hardest part of your job?
Sure. The easiest part of my job are my customers. I love people. I like to help people. So I enjoy insurance and explaining it and talking with people and helping people. The flip side of that is when someone has an accident and someone dies. Those conversations are very hard. And so that would probably be the hardest part, is when somebody has passed away or died. Or they've had a great loss to their house. Those are the worst part of my job, or the saddest.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Question from the chat. Here at Junior Achievement of New Mexico, we talk to middle schoolers and high schoolers about the concept of risk and managing risk. Can you talk a little bit about home, life, renters, and less obvious types of insurance?
Sure. So do you want me to just explain what each line is, or explain why it's important to have those other lines of insurance?
Let's do both.
Okay. So homeowners insurance or renters insurance is insurance you get for your property. So if you own a home, it's a huge asset and you want to protect it. So you get a homeowner's policy to protect the structure or the walls of your home and also the contents inside. Renters insurance, obviously you don't own that apartment, so you just want to protect your stuff. So I always tell people, take the roof off of wherever you're living, flip it upside down. All of that stuff that comes out, you want to insure, because if there's a fire or there's a flood or someone comes in and robs you, to replace all of that at once is very, very expensive. So by having the help of insurance, you pay a small deductible and the insurance company will take care of the rest as long as it's covered, obviously. Life insurance protects your life. So as a parent, I have a 16-year-old. If something happens, when something happens to me, I want to make sure that taking care of her is not a burden to my sisters or my parents or whoever I choose to leave her with. So I have life insurance that covers all of my debt, and insurance that would pay for a college education when she graduates, so that whoever is taking care of her, they can work with her mourning the loss of the parent or the loved one and not struggle because now there is another mouth to feed. Life insurance is very inexpensive, especially when you're young. That is one piece of advice I wish I would have listened to my father on. When you're young, it's cheap. When you get older, it's more expensive. It's important to have, though, because you're taking care of any responsibility you have financially if you or when you pass away.
Thank you. So what do you love most about your job?
The people. I love the people, my customers, the people I get to work with. Honestly, I love insurance. I would not have thought I did, but I really enjoy managing risk and helping people understand that and realize the importance of it.
Thank you. From the chat, at one of my jobs, our counselors worked with therapy dogs. We purchased special insurance from a company that covers circuses, horse stables, etc. What would that type of insurance be called?
So each company has their own niche. State Farm, obviously, house, auto, life. We do not. We have a commercial department that offers different insurance for different businesses. I don't know if we have that. I haven't sold a policy for that, but my understanding of insurance would be that it would protect the business. If somebody fell or got bit, they would have the liability insurance. And then depending on the expense of the animals, it might also cover the animals. I don't know if a therapy dog is like a seeing eye dog, but they go through so much training that there's a value also, not just because dogs are awesome, but because the training and the time it takes to get a dog to that place. So my guess would be that the policy would cover all of that and maybe a little bit more. But that isn't a policy I'm familiar with, so I wouldn't have like specifics.
Thank you. I want to give the opportunity for anyone to unmute and ask a question to Sunny live. Otherwise, we'll keep going with the questions from registration. All right. So, Sunny, would you mind touching on what the day-to-day, you own your own State Farm building and business. So if you could touch a little bit more about maybe how that came to be Like, how did you go from claims to that? And then maybe touch on your day-to-day of your job now.
Sure. So like I said, I went to school at New Mexico State in Las Cruces, moved to Phoenix to start with State Farm Claims. At that time, you had to agree to be transferred to New Mexico, Nevada, or Arizona. I was hoping to stay in Arizona, but I was sent back to New Mexico, this time in Albuquerque. So at that time, there was a hub in Albuquerque for claims. And so I did my claims job there on a team. And honestly, I had a great boss at that time. He was very patient. I was very young. He was very patient and did a great job teaching me the follow-up, the basics. And so I was very lucky to have such a great boss. But I decided auto claims, fire claims, any type of claims is hard. People aren't happy to talk to you. They're usually upset. They're very mean. You have to develop a thick skin. So I decided this is probably not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I applied for a job on the agency side of State Farm. We are all independent contractors and own our own businesses, but we do have people the company provides for us for training and things like that. So I became an agency field specialist and moved to Ruidoso. And then I had just had my daughter and decided I wanted to be closer to home, and my parents live in El Paso. So I decided to open an agency. When you open an agency, can do it scratch where you have no customers, or you can inherit a book of business, which is an existing agent who's retired. Because I don't do anything normal, I decided to go scratch and start with 0 customers and a brand new baby. And that's what got me back to Santa Teresa, which is right by El Paso. It's a job like no other. You have to get customers. They don't come to you. So you do call nights, and you send out flyers, and you go to door and different activities to get your name out there. So my day-to-day then is different than my day-to-day now. Now I have 4 employees that are awesome, and the phone rings and people walk in now that our doors are back open because of COVID. So the day-to-day could be just answering phone calls. If a customer is upset about anything, those are my calls. I have appointments. Each day is different. Honestly, there's no day the same in insurance at all.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And I want to give the opportunity for anybody some final questions from the chat, or we'll be respectful of everyone's time and we'll wrap up. All right. Well, thank you so much, Sunny, for your knowledge and sharing your personal stories, and the fact that the way that you talked about your parents and the way that they supported you, and as well as, the way that you look back on all of that. It's very important for the students that are on the call and to the students that are going to be seeing this on our YouTube channel. I just applaud you. That was very great and very knowledgeable. And so thank you so much. And to the students and the teachers that are on the call today, thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoyed the program. Before we log off, just a couple of announcements. Following this presentation, you'll be asked to complete a post-program mindset survey. By completing the survey, you'll be entered into a chance to win a gift card. So please make sure that you fill out those surveys after each session. We choose a new gift card winner after each session. So please make sure you keep filling out those surveys. Lastly, next week is our final week of Inspiring NM Student Conference. And just a note that next week's schedule will change. We will not have a Wednesday at 1 o'clock. We will be having a Tuesday at 10:30 instead of that Wednesday at 1 o'clock slot. And we'll be welcoming State Treasurer Tim Eichenberg, and we're really excited to have him during that special session. And then remember, no session on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, May 6th, we will be welcoming Kristen Chavez-Smith from the city of Albuquerque, and they will be discussing ways to plan for your future. And so please keep an eye out for your emails to make sure that you're registering for those when those opportunities come to you. Thank you so much, Sunny. Once again, thank you, thank you. And to everyone on the call, and I hope we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.